What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So we have a new poll coming out of Maine, the Siena poll, and we'll take a look at that. And we'll also take a look at Susan Collins and just her past performances, because we really need to be focusing on her past performances because she has outperformed the polls in the past. So we'll take a look at this current poll. We'll take a look at her past performances, because if Platner wants to win, he needs to increase his lead, and I'll show you guys that. So we're going to do all that in this video, but first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. If you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We are using 270 to win, and we're taking a look at the last poll here, the Siena College poll. Okay, this was posted on 6/29/2026. You have 608 likely voters. You have the margin of error plus or minus 4.8%. You have Platner at 49%. You have Collins at 47%. And you have other at 4%. And so you see, this is a close race. I mean, we're talking 2 points here. This does fall within this margin of error here. So there is no clear leader in this poll. And if you just go down and we start looking, we had this WIC poll that was posted on 6/16. That was 1,008 likely voters. Margin of error there, plus or minus 3.1%. You had Platner at 48. You had Collins at 45. And you had other at 7%. Another close race within that margin of error. So we have within the margin of error here, within the margin of error here. Then we have another poll here. This was the Qantas Insight posted on 6/12/2026. 870 likely voters, plus or minus here, 3.4%. You have Platner at 46%. You have Collins at 45%. Then you have other at 9%. Another one falls within that margin of error. So you see the race really tightened. And it started, we started to see this tightening in June. And this is right after we found out that information about texting. In the UMass poll here, the one that was posted on 6/4, this is 650 likely voters. Margin of error there, plus or minus 4.9%. It shows the biggest spread, but it still falls within that margin of error. So 48% for Platner, 43% for Collins, and then 9% for other. And so you see how this race has tightened, because look at before then. We were looking at 51% for Platner, 42% for Collins, 48% for Platner, 41% for Collins, 51% for Platner, 45%. So you see, look at this, 48% for Platner, 39% for Collins, 48% for Platner, 41% for Collins. And so you see that this race is starting to tighten, okay? And it could be as a result of the latest scandal. And it could be as a result of now we know who the candidates are, and people, a lot of the people that were on the sideline, the people who are undecided, they now realize, okay, it's either going to be Platner, it's going to be Collins, and now they're weighing in. And so it's changing those numbers, and it's actually helping Collins because it's pulling her up a little bit. So some of those people that were on the fence, now they're saying, okay, well, I'll vote for Collins over Platner. So now I want to show you, when it comes to Collins, Susan Collins outperforming her polls, she's done it over and over again. And so, I mean, the main poll, and if we look at the bottom first, and then we'll take a look at the top, but just looking at the bottom. Now, understand, some of these races, it wasn't a close race. Okay, so the challenger wasn't strong enough to even get close in the race. So these numbers, the polling might have shown the race a little bit closer than what it was, but Susan Collins was still the favorite to win. So when we're looking at some of these polls, she won by plus 5.3% in 96. In 2002, she won by plus 16.9%. In 2008, she won by plus 22.8%. In 2014, she won by plus 37%. And then in 2020, she won by plus 8.6%. This is the one I really want to focus on. This is the latest time that she ran, and she outperformed the polls by 12 points. And we'll take a look. So if we're looking at Gideon here, Gideon was favored in the polls by plus 3.8%. Okay, so we were at Gideon at 46.4% and Collins at 42.6%. These are the final results. Susan Collins plus 8.6%. So Collins got 51% there. Gideon got 42.4%. So she outperformed Collins outperformed her polls by 12.4%. And so what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that if you're like Gideon here, where you are, you're up by 3.8%, and looking at Platner, if you compare that to what Platner is showing right now, of course, these are the polls that, this is the information that we have today. So this is how the election could go today, but we don't know what's going to happen a month from now. We don't know what's going to happen in November. Those polls can change, and they need to change for Platner. But if we're just looking at the history here, Platner needs to get well above 3.8%. As a matter of fact, Platner realistically needs to get into the double digits when it comes to polling numbers. So if he's consistently at 10% above, 10% spread between him and Collins, then he'll have a fighting chance of winning. But if we continue to see 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, that's not going to be enough for Platner to win based on Susan Collins outperforming her polls. And so because she's done that multiple times, you have to understand that there's some voters in Maine that are being underrepresented by these polls. And that has been consistent. And so we'll have to see how it plays out. Now, there could also be some voters that are underrepresented on Platner's side. We don't know that yet, right? Because each candidate is different. So Platner might have some people that are underrepresented. They're not being picked up in the polls. And so we'll have to see if that's the case as well. But I just wanted to put that out there when it comes to Susan Collins. And people have said this, people in Maine have said this, voters in Maine have said this, well, you know what, even though the polls are showing that Collins is not leading, she finds a way to pull it out. She finds a way to pull it out. So we'll have to see if she can find a way to pull it out in November. Now, I think with everything that's going on right now, the climate that we're in when it comes to the economy, when it comes to this war in Iran and some other things that are going on, I think it's going to be tougher for Susan Collins to win, but I'm not ruling her out because if we look at history, she's done this before. She's been here before. Maybe not in the same climate, but she's been here before where she's not leading in the polls and she ends up winning in November. So I want to know what you guys think. What do you think about this race? Do you think Platner has a real shot of winning? Do you think Collins will find a way to win? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.